What's good, YouTube? My name is Mary Kay, and welcome to Mary Kay Confidential. Today's video is about lock misconceptions. So if that's the topic that interests you, please stay tuned. Alright guys, so if you're new to locks or you're thinking about locks, there may be some things that you think about locks that aren't necessarily true. And that's what today's video is all about. Today we're going to discuss 10 lock misconceptions. Let's dive right into it, shall we? Misconception number 1, that your locks are immediately going to look like mature locks. Now I know that seems like an obvious, but you'll be surprised. My initial thought was, why are they so thin? But with locks, when you start, especially when you start with a coil, the coil is very tight. The hair is basically looped around itself. So it's very tight, and it's going to take time for that hair to build up and bulk up, the budding process, before your hair thickens up. So it's just part of the initial growing pains of having locks. I'm willing to bet the number one thing you hear in the lock community is you have to have patience. You have to have patience. Speaking of patience, number 2, that you can skip steps. Now you can start with instant locks, but your locks still have to bud and mature. So when your hair starts looking frizzy, just know that that's part of the process. Now you can keep it a little manicured. Some people decide to just let the frizz be and kind of freeform. Me personally, I let my hair be a little frizzy, but not too much, okay? I still need it. I need my hair to look a little manicured, you know. But the frizz, the budding is going to happen. You can't just skip over that and go to the mature look. That's like the reward for going through the steps. I purposely put these in a certain order, so that leads to number 3, that your locks are always going to be nice and fresh at all times. As much as I would like this to be true, it's just simply not. Part of your locks forming is that frizziness. That frizziness is your hair conjoining or entangling itself together. Entanglement, yeah, I digress. Part of that is that frizz means the process is happening. Embrace the frizz. Embrace the frizz. It's your friend. Just roll with it. Misconception number 4, that your locks are going to look like someone else's. Now, we all have lock crushes, or, you know, people that we think, oh, my hair is similar texture to theirs, or my locks should look similar to theirs. Your hair is just like you. You are uniquely you. There's no one else like you. And your locks are no different. Even if it's your sibling. Both of my brothers had locks at one point. My locks look nothing like their locks. And we all have the same mom and the same dad. While it's okay to look at other individuals' locks for inspiration, don't think that your locks are going to look just like theirs. Even if you have the same parting, the same amount of locks, it doesn't matter. Your locks are uniquely yours. Your journey is uniquely yours. Misconception number 5, that there is an ugly phase to locks. Now, I have to admit that I wanted locks a long time ago. One of the reasons I didn't lock my hair back then was because I didn't want to go through the ugly phase. And to me, the ugly phase meant like wild and sticking up and unable to tame it, because I thought that's what you had to go through to get locks. Well, it's been 9 months, and I think that step pretty much skipped me. So my hair never was sticking up, never was wild. I think some of that has to do with the person's preference. They might want their hair to look wild. Okay, y'all, let's press pause for a minute. So I failed to mention that a lot of times when locks stick up, it's because they don't have enough weight yet. My locks, if I put my locks in a top ponytail, they will not sit down because my locks do not have enough weight to them yet. So when people say my locks finally dropped, that's what they're referring to. Misconception number 6, that locks are smelly and dirty. Can locks become smelly or dirty? Of course. Any hair texture or hair type can be smelly or dirty. Number 1, keep a wash day routine. I personally wash my hair at least every 3.5 to 4 weeks. If you're very active, you might want to do every 2 weeks. Always, always, always check your locks for lint and debris. Our hair will just, it's like lint is attracted to locks. It just is. I, in month 5, dealt with lint in my very back row of my locks. And from then forward, I make sure to check my locks. I go through them with a double mirror, you know, one behind you, one in front of you, and I check my locks to make sure that there's no lint in it. And if you just so happen to be suffering from lint, you can use a pair of tweezers or maybe a crochet needle or something to pull that lint out of your hair. And also clarifying shampoos. I start every single wash with a clarifying shampoo. Definitely add some type of clarifying shampoo to the beginning of your shampoo process, and that will help get any product buildup or debris that's in your hair. It will help pull that out before you continue with your wash day routine. Speaking of shampoo, number 7, that there is a one-size-fits-all approach to choosing hair products. Now, everyone has their brand preferences. For instance, I was using Design Essentials shampoos and conditioners before I locked my hair, and I still use them now because that's just a preference. You have some lock wearers who just use water and oil. You have some who use gels. You even have some that still use heavier products like creams and butters, which isn't really suggested. But if it works for you, it works for you. Do what you would like to do and do what's best for your hair, because your hair texture is different from the next person. So you don't have to use the same thing that someone else uses just because they said that's what they use. Misconception number 8, that you have to retwist your hair every certain amount of days or every certain amount of weeks. This is not true. I personally like to retwist my hair once a month, roughly every 3.5 to 4 weeks. I retwist my hair. Now, some people don't retwist at all, freeform. You have some people who do more frequent, some people who stretch it every 6 to 8 weeks. Now, if you're going to do your hair more frequently, just be careful, because further down the line, if you retwist your hair too much, it may cause thinning further down the line. You might not notice it up front, but just be careful with that. So every 4 to 6 weeks is more of the recommended amount of time. Misconception number 9, that locks aren't feminine. Now, that misconception can be easily remedied by going to Google Images, going to Pinterest, even Instagram, looking up lock styles. There's so much you can do with locks. Now, I personally like to just mostly wear my hair down, but there's so many styles that you can do with locks. And even just wearing my hair down, I'm still feminine. It doesn't take away anything from my femininity. However, a long time ago when I wanted to start my locks, social media wasn't really a thing yet. I know I'm kind of dating myself, but social media wasn't a thing, and everyone that I knew that had locks was a guy. So I felt like, even though I wanted the locks, I felt like I would be looked at like, I was already kind of a tomboy anyway. You know, back in high school, I was already a tomboy. So I felt like having locks would just like, it just wouldn't be the feminine thing. So I just strayed away from it. So as you can see, it's years upon years later before I started locks. Locks are really what you make it. You know, the styles, you do what fits your hair and your lifestyle, and the locks will conform to you basically. And misconception number 10, that you have to start with short hair. Now, I'm pretty sure it's a little easier starting with short hair, but it's not a requirement. My hair, before I started my locks, was about 10 inches stretched completely out. However, when I started my locks, those 10 inches stretch became about 4 to 5 inches of hair in the coils. And they're, of course, growing back out. The only pro I would say of starting with short hair versus longer lengths, when you're going through the budding phase, it's not as dramatic, for a lack of a better word, because your hair is shorter, whereas it's more noticeable if you have more hair. People try to say it takes longer to bud or longer to go through the steps, but at the 4-week mark, most of my hair already had its first bud. So the length of your hair doesn't matter as much as how you're taking care of your hair. So yeah, those are 10 misconceptions about locks. Hopefully we just bust through those misconceptions and you feel more comfortable about your lock process or about starting your lock process. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please list them below. Any topics you would like me to discuss that I haven't discussed, make sure to leave those below as well. And any misconceptions that you had about your locks or any personal stories about your lock journey, please feel free to leave those below. I always make sure to respond to comments, so please feel free to leave those down below. And don't forget to, you know what, like, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next video.